All right, welcome. Let's get this meeting called to order. Welcome to our guests. The Salem Chamber Forum Speaker Series Luncheon is sponsored today by Express Employment Professionals, and we are presented all season long by our partners at Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions. My name is Alan Rasmussen. I'm the president of the board here at the Salem Chamber, and it's my pleasure, along with all of my fellow board members, to serve the Salem business community. The Salem Chamber wishes to thank all of our veterans today for their service with Veterans Day here this Saturday, the 11th. This past weekend, we celebrated Veterans Day, recognizing the selfless individuals who placed their needs, their families' needs, before and putting the country before their own needs. For those that served and are no longer with us, and those that served and are represented across Salem's business community today, we salute you and we thank you very much for your service. At this time, I'd like everyone to stand up. We're going to take a moment to pray or reflect each in our own way. We are thankful for this meal before us, for the hands that prepared it, and for those who will serve it. We are grateful for this day, for its blessings, its opportunities, and even for its challenges. We recognize the immense freedoms we enjoy as Americans, courtesy of our veterans past and present. May we lend each other strength and guidance as fellow leaders within the Salem community. May we be deeply driven to give our best, always, and be so courageous to rise to meet the challenges we face. Amen. Please stay standing. I'm going to welcome Nathan Dean to perform our national anthem today. Nathan is the owner of Old Zen Wine Bar in West Salem. Each Monday night, including this evening, you may sip a tasty glass of wine and enjoy local singers performing karaoke, starting at 7 p.m. at their location on Edgewater. Yeah.
I'm not that great of a karaoke singer, so. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Great job. Thank you, Nathan. And again, later tonight, you can hear him sing some more at the Old Zen Wine Bar. It is now my honor to introduce today's head table. Today's keynote address and conversation with the audience will be led by my friend, Representative Ed Diehl, who he represents the residents in Oregon House District 17. And then our two expert panelists are Julie Woodward, Director of Forestry at the Oregon Forest Resources Institute, and Dr. John Bailey, Professor of Forest and Fire Management at Oregon State University's College of Forestry. He says go Beavs. That was very hard for me to say that. To my far right is Matt Huston, Employee Benefits Consultant at Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions, our Forum Speakers Series season-long sponsor. Matt, thank you for you and your company for bringing a terrific slate of speakers to our membership this season. Many more great ones to come. Our sponsor for today's event is the team at Express Employment Professionals, today presented by owner and career coach Patricia Callahan-Bowman. We will hear from Patricia later in the program as she introduces our keynote presentation. So please help me welcome our head table. At this time, we'd like to introduce our dignitaries that take their time to join us today. I'll start with our local elected officials. Please stand and we'll applaud at the end. Ken Hector, Chemeketa Community College Board. Sarita Cross, Kaiser City Council. Our own Julie Hoy, Salem City Councilor. Kevin Cameron, Marion County Commissioner. Craig Pope, Polk County Commissioner. And Steve Horning, Turner Mayor, along with Mr. Diehl here, who I've introduced earlier. Thank you. And then my fellow teammates, past presidents and chamber board of directors, past president Laura Dorn, past president TJ Sullivan, and past president Brent D. Hart. And some more of my team members on the current board of directors: Laura Dorn, Christy Witzke, Angela Williams, Eric Templeton, Ted Ferry, Rich Duncan, Mike Heron, Katia Mendez, Roger Hoy, and Brandon Blair. Thank you. So just recently, Oregon Business and Industry and Here is Oregon partnered together to launch the inaugural Coolest Thing Made in Oregon competition as a celebration of Oregon's manufacturing sector. Our very own Salem Chamber member company, Ferris Engineered Wood, was honored with the inaugural award for their state-of-the-art mass plywood panels. The Ferris family has a 100-year history of innovation in the wood products industry, known for being traditionally innovative. Ferris is deeply committed to its community and to its sustainable forest management practices. The company uses 100% of the wood it processes through its operations and 6 wood product facilities. Ferris provides family wage jobs to nearly 500 employees. The Salem Chamber membership wishes to congratulate the Ferris Engineered Wood for their award as the coolest thing made in Oregon. I believe Tyler, Kyle, and Rob are in attendance today. Would you please stand and be recognized? And if you've never been out to that facility, it is quite the building, quite the operation, that mass plywood panel. So they love giving tours, and so if you ever get a chance, please take them up on that. It is a sight to behold. Moving along, last Tuesday was Election Day across the state. The city of Salem presented Salem residents with a proposed employee-paid payroll tax. The Salem Chamber partnered with Oregon Business and Industry stood in opposition to this ballot measure. Voters in Salem spoke loudly and very clearly, defeating the payroll tax measure 82 to 18. So while this victory saves Salem workers nearly $28 million in wages, our organization remains committed to assisting the city of Salem in their budget considerations and now into the future. There will be more difficult decisions ahead, and the Salem Chamber will be a full participant in partnering with Salem City Councilors and the Budget Committee in charting a more economically viable course for city expenses and revenues. Thank you, Salem businesses, for voting no on the payroll tax. You have helped keep your employees' paychecks whole. So as I mentioned earlier, we're very pleased to have the experts at Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions presenting the 2023-24 Forum Speaker Series each month. Since 1910, Hagen Hamilton has been insuring people and their businesses across the Pacific Northwest, all while staying true to their mission and values. Solutions are what they're known for, and it's why their customers trust their products and services, why employees love working for the family-owned company, and why our community continues to rely on their agents to provide practical solutions to their insurance needs. To share a little bit about Hagen Hamilton Insurance Solutions and then introduce our Spirit of Salem Award, join me in welcoming Employee Benefits Consultant Matt Huston to the podium.
Hello, everybody. Nice seeing you again. I'll do my best to stay up the soapbox, but at the same time, maybe I should so then you all can see me, but that's a total different story there. But anyways, first off, yeah, thank you so much for letting us be here. It's always an honor and a privilege to be here, and love seeing the Hagen Hamilton name and brand up there. Like Alan mentioned, we've been around for over 100 years, and that's pretty darn special. As a fourth-generation Oregonian, I'm proud to be an Oregonian. I'm proud to serve Oregon. I'm proud to serve all of our communities, and I love the fact that Hagen Hamilton says Salem is a key to that. Salem is important for that. So we are going to make sure that we have one of our 6 branches right here, and we're going to do all kinds of things like support the community, support the people, and support the commerce. So it's such a wonderful and spectacular thing that we get to do this. It truly is an honor for us to be able to work with you all, work for you all, and also serve you all. It truly is something that we take great pride in. Each one of our individuals, and I'm not one of the owners, I'm just one of them that wears the brand, but we can all wear that proud, and we are proud to do it. With that being said, for the 14th straight year, the tally isn't in yet, so we don't know yet for the 15th year, but we've been voted the one of the top 100 companies to work for in the state of Oregon. That doesn't happen by accident. So that is something that we're extremely proud of, and that's something that we are hoping this 15th year we'll be able to stand up here and say that again. So with that being said, and some other awards that we've been able to present, I am actually honored today to be able to present an award to somebody in this room. I was told a few moments ago that they don't know. They don't know that they've won yet. So that's kind of fun, but at the same time, a little nerve-wracking for me. So on behalf of Stacy, Stephanie, TJ, Katie, Neil, Chris, and myself, it's an absolute honor for each month the Salem Chamber has the privilege and honor to bestow the Spirit of Salem Award to one or more of Salem's most impactful leaders or notable community endeavors. The Spirit of Salem recipient exhibits the qualities of servant leadership in the facets of all their areas that they do for the Salem community. In this case, it's a much larger than simply the Salem community, but rather service the entire state of Oregon. Recipients are individuals or organizations who work tirelessly behind the scenes, day in and day out, to make Salem a special and inclusive place for everybody. This month, we are honored to recognize the team at the Oregon State Fair and Expo Center. Each summer, Oregonians and visitors alike arrive in the thousands to see the truly unique cross-section of Oregon's history in farming, agricultural, arts, culture, food, and of course, entertainment. Whether you're petting the animals or on a roller coaster ride or jamming out to one of the prominent national recording artists, the Oregon State Fair has something for every attendee, all ages and abilities. Fair attendees come across the state and across the nation, but did you know, because I was not aware of this, that the Oregon State Fair receives $0 from the state of Oregon? as a self-managed, not-for-profit effort to serve the Oregonians and those who visit us. When you think of the Oregon State Fair, you likely think about livestock and carnival rides. Maybe we should have animals on the carnival rides. That'd be unique. But we also think about fresh corn dogs and local microbrews. But there is so much more to see. Farm and garden, floral displays, honey, paper, arts, poetry, collectibles, treasures, baked goods, needlework, quilting, and calligraphy. And the highlight from this year's event was the STEM competition, including colorful, snap-together building blocks used to build wondrous creations envisioned only by the competitors. Even remote-controlled cars and trucks were on display this year. Musical highlights from 2023 State Fair included the Beach Boys, El King, Bush, Skillet, Chris Jensen, and Vanilla Ice. This year's Oregon State Fair was truly a showcase event for the entire state. There was even a chocolate cake contest. The 2023 State Fair hosted over 308,000 visitors and had nearly 2 million carnival ride tickets sold. The concert series alone attendance was up 23% over last year, grossing over $1 million in concert revenue. The Salem small business community feels the economic impact the state fair brings to local hotels, restaurants, and the merchants. The Salem Chamber is honored to bestow the Spirit of Salem Award, recognized to our partners at the Oregon State Fair and Expo Center. Please join me in welcoming CEO Kim Grewe-Powell and Financial Manager Jean Whitpalm to the stage.
Thank you, everyone. This is a complete surprise. I don't even have words to say how surprised I am. Thank you. We work tirelessly every year to put on the best fair that we can, and year-round to put on hundreds of events that we host at our facility. So thank you once again. I appreciate it.
Thank you again. I can say that I confidently spent many hundreds of dollars on carnival tickets, so my kids had to go 2 or 3 times, I think, this year. So since 1989, Express Employment Professionals has been serving the Salem community. The Salem branch is a full-service employment agency which provides staffing solutions and employment services throughout Marion and Polk County, touching on the cities of Kaiser, not just Salem, but Kaiser and Silverton, Woodburn, Mount Angel, Jervis, Independence, Dallas, Stayton, Sublimity, Almsville. Their professionals go above and beyond by connecting the staffing services they specialize in with quality job seekers who are looking for those remarkable job opportunities that you guys provide. Express recruits their applicants from within our community whenever possible, which is proved to show that substantial on-job attendance records and high conversions from temporary to full-time job offers. And a great feature right on their website, expresspros.com/SalemOR, and there are 2 simple click buttons. I'm looking for a job, or I'm looking for employees. Simple yet effective. So please welcome to today's podium from luncheon sponsor, Express Employment Professionals, represented by owner and career coach Patricia Callahan-Bowman.
was a great introduction, and I don't need to say anything about Express. You said it all. We're delighted to be here. This is the first time in the last couple of years that we've sponsored a luncheon, and we normally do it every year. So I'm thankful we're all here and that we're in person. Just a little bit about Express, and then I want to go to the main feature, which are the people who are sitting over there. 23 years ago, I made the choice to buy an Express Employment Professionals franchise, and I had several territories that I could look at. But I chose Salem because Salem is a great place to do business. It's big enough to provide income for the people that work for me and all the people we put to work, and it's small enough to get to be part of groups like this where you have an opportunity to talk to people and get to know the people who are in business with us. Staffing firms get the help that you need at the time that you need it, and also is a great opportunity for people who are looking for work to get connected. We're career coaches for the people who work for us, and we introduce them to all of you, and that gives them an opportunity to go on to permanent employment. Right now, I know a lot of people are asking themselves, is the job market, kind of slowing down a little bit? And I'm not sure that that's true, but I do know that the things are kind of turning toward an employer-based decisions rather than employees, and we've moved more to the center and not so much skewed one way or the other. I think you see in things like healthcare professions that still is very skewed to the employees, and because there's so few of them. But for the more entry-level jobs, that it's going to be a little bit more difficult, I believe, from looking at it from my perspective, for people to find work. And one of the things that we did as part of coming to this meeting, and I think there's flyers on your table, we're doing a Pay It Forward campaign, and we're trying to put an additional 100 people to work between now and December 25th. And there's nothing worse than being out of work right before the holidays. Excuse me, I have a little cough today. So what we're trying to do is launch this campaign and see if there are people in our audience and other people within the city that are interested in hiring. You could even just do it for one day, and we're going to make a contribution to the Center for Hope and Safety, which is a local nonprofit organization who's been here since 1973. And they do a wonderful job in helping victims of crimes and victims of variety of different things, and also the survivors of those. And we look forward to helping to maybe help some of the people that they support have a better holiday. Now on to why we're actually here. That is to introduce our speakers. It's my pleasure to introduce today's keynote presenters. First, Representative Ed Diehl. He serves Oregon House District 17, which spans from East Salem and Turner to Detroit and Idana, which is, as we all know, encompasses the Santiam Canyon. As a longtime business owner, Representative Diehl is well-versed in the ins and outs of business ownership here in Oregon. His desire to serve is a long-term passion, and voters elected him in during the 1922 general election. Next is Julie Woodward, and she's the Director of Forestry for the Oregon Forest Resources Institute. Julie oversees the landowner education program and serves as its lead forester. She also serves as a liaison with the forestry and forest service communities. Julie has been professionally engaged in Oregon's forest sector for over 25 years. Julie holds her bachelor's degree in forest management and business administration and obtained her master's degree in natural resources education from Oregon State University. Next is Dr. John Bailey, and he's a professor of silviculture and fire management in the College of Forestry at Oregon State University. He obtained his bachelor's and master's degree from Virginia Tech as a native Virginian. This is where he was a squad boss with the Virginia Department of Forestry and USDA Forest Service. After graduation, he worked for over 6 years with the Environmental Protection Agency and several forest dressers. He completed his PhD at Oregon State University and joined the faculty at Northern Arizona University in 1996, where he worked in ponderosa pine silviculture, fuels management, and ecological restoration. He returned to OSU in 2006 to rebuild a wildland fire curriculum and continues to research on fuels, fire curriculum and continue research on this as meant to manage that and sustainable forest management in fire-prone forest types. His recent research and outreach focuses on landscape, wildlife risk, and how to use the active forest and fire management to minimize the adverse impacts of future wildfire. Ladies and gentlemen, let's join me in a warm Salem Chamber welcome to Representative for Oregon House District, Ed Diehl.
Well, thanks, Patricia, for that intro. I know I've got a lot of gray hair, but I was elected in 2022, not 1922. I just want to make sure, clarify that. Just kidding. Thank you to the Salem Chamber for hosting this very important discussion, and I'm honored to be up here to talk to you today. You already know where I'm from, District 17, East Salem, through the majestic Santiam Canyon. And, I'm in this legislature. I have a degree in engineering, and I'm a business guy. That's how I made my career, but I'm in this legislature because I have a passion for serving, and I'm committed to making this state a better place for business and for Oregonians. And in my district, House District 17, we were devastated by the Labor Day wildfires from 2020. The Lion's Head and Beachy Creek fires burned 239,500 acres of Marion and Linn County. Most of that was in the Santiam Canyon, my district. The fires took 700 homes in the canyon, 5 lives, and 9 lives statewide. All told for Oregon, the Labor Day fires encompassed 971,000 acres of forest land, containing nearly 15 billion board feet of timber. The economic impact of the Labor Day fires in Oregon's forest sector alone is about $5.9 billion and upwards of 3,000 jobs. This doesn't include the other economic impacts of the fires: the natural resource loss, the compromised ecosystems, wide-scale health effects of the smoke, loss of property and infrastructure, the lost jobs outside of the forest industry, and the lost commercial value stemming from recreational use of the forests. And these impacts undoubtedly add billions more to that economic loss number. My hope is that after today, you'll understand one thing: it did not have to be this way. These wildfires are the direct result of misguided policy and poor decisions by leadership. And these devastating wildfires are one of the main reasons I stand before you today as a state legislator, because we can do better. I've heard too many pundits make the claim that we can't do anything about these fires. They're due to climate change, we're told, and we just have to accept that new normal. The truth is, we can acknowledge that our climate is changing, and we can actively manage our forests accordingly. The truth is that our western forests are dry. They're very dry. We're in a drought cycle that our region has seen in the past, every 400 years or so, based on what we can study. And this one is deeper and longer than the others that we've seen before. And the truth is that our wildfire destiny is under our control. We do not have to live with raging forest fires every year, the stifling smoke, the lost homes and jobs and lives. As an engineer, I look at these things pragmatically, with the understanding that we're stewards of this land. We're not passive bystanders. We're here to manage these lands for our benefit and the benefit of future generations. And as a newly minted Oregon State policymaker, I look at how our policy positions impact the lives of Oregonians. Our state, our federal government have implemented policies to lock down our forests, to prevent the stewardship necessary to manage wildfire risk and support healthy forests and healthy communities. And we have diverted billions of tax dollars toward green energy projects that will not provide any measurable benefit to the global climate, much less to the lives of Oregonians. For example, Oregon has mandated a decarbonized power grid by 2040. We're going to spend billions in taxes, rate hikes, and fees to make this happen. We recently dismantled a coal-fired power plant in Oregon with 20-plus years of life left, only to purchase coal-powered energy from another state. What is the net benefit in the global climate for all this time and treasure? Zero. There is no measurable benefit. But think what we could do with that time and treasure by actively stewarding our forest lands against wildfire, by hardening our power grid, by investing in municipal infrastructure and affordable housing. We could quickly measure a return on those investments, not only for our generation, but future generations of Oregonians. Our destiny is under our control. We are stewards of this land. We can acknowledge a changing climate and do something about it. We have the opportunity to make policy that provides real, tangible benefit to Oregonians. And together, we can chart a path to healthy forests in Oregon. I look forward to the conversation today, and I want to thank Mrs. Woodward and Dr. Bailey for sharing their experience and wisdom. And I look forward to more conversation. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Representative Diehl. That was great. Thank you, Chamber, for having us and the sponsors. And we so appreciate to get this opportunity to come and talk to you today about Oregon's forests and what they mean to you. And we hope that you'll spend some time thinking about that. And so I'll draw your attention to the screens. We're gonna just give you some visuals as we have this conversation. And I know many of you come from a diverse background, diverse industries, and so I'd like for you to take a second and think about how do these forests impact you every day? And those clean air, clean water, the economic impacts, the houses, and all of the benefits that we get from forest. And so we appreciate this opportunity to come in and have this conversation about forest. And I want encourage you to have this conversation for an hour or more. And then there's some of us who have dedicated our whole careers to having these conversations. And I've jumped into this as my career and have loved forestry. And as generations before me in my family that have been part of helping provide a local sustainable wood source for building places like Portland and Salem and the very places we live and work. So this is multiple generations for many of us in this room, for those that are in the sector. And we also start to think about what's next for that next generation. And so I've been lucky enough to work for an agency called the Oregon Forest Resources Institute, or OFRI. And we help support Oregon's forest sector, but we also think about that. How can we have these conversations? How can we talk about providing all of these benefits and this balance? And for a long time, our sector has often been marked with controversy and really loud, extreme voices, often the ones being heard, versus the opportunity like today to talk about balance, to talk about how do we help benefit for all Oregonians, to talk about how we help do both environmental and social and economic benefits. And so that's where we want the conversation to go today. What can that future look like? Where can we help lean in and be a part of that? So OFRI, that's what we do, but we also invite others to be part of it. We are a state agency that's funded by a forest products tax, no general funds, and we have board members who are continually helping us with these conversations. We deliver through three main programs. We have the public education programs through our K-12, and then also through landowners. And then we also get the privilege of having a demonstration forest here in the Salem area out in Silverton at the Oregon Garden, where we can also work with the students and others to learn about forestry. So today what I've been asked to do is help set a baseline for you. As many of you may not be part of the forestry conversation all the time, where is kind of the Oregon forest sector today? And then we can have conversations about diving in more with Dr. Bailey about wildfire and where could it go, the sector go in the future. So about half of our state is forested. Very rarely can you go anywhere in the state and not drive through forest, interact with forest, with about half the state forested. But those forests don't all look the same. So we have about 12 distinct types of forests in Oregon, and they vary from mixed different conifer species in the south to our prominent Douglas fir species that we have here in the west, and then to our pine species and other species. And so a part of that is thinking about our landscape of those forests are diverse. We also have a diversity of who owns those forests. And so our largest part of that, half of our state is forested, about 60% is owned by the federal government. That's what you hear, Forest Service, BLM, those type of agencies. The next is the large private landowners, and then we have our small family forest landowners. They make up a lot of what we have around our communities. And then we have our state and tribal and other forest landowners. This is kind of what it looks like. Forest ownership varies across the state, just as the species vary. We also have various ownership. And when we think about that ownership, not only are the diversity of who owns it, but they might have a diversity of their forest management goals. And so when we talk about forest management, what we're really talking about is how are we growing, harvesting, how are people doing those actions in the forest? And that may mean different things to different landowners. But when we talk about it, again, we think about everyone is providing, when they have forests, is providing multiple resources. They're providing those benefits we first talked about, the wildlife habitat. Some of them lean into a little more of maybe using their tools to also provide more wood production for what society demands for our homes and what we need. Others might kind of remove the tools and not do much management at all and more into the reserves. And so we have across the spectrum, much like a diversity of landowners, we have them doing a diversity of management. And this is where we start to talk about balance. Do we have the right management across the landscape in order for our forests to have balance and have a path forward for a healthy and resilient future? And many of you, probably in the summer when you see that smoke, for us that's an indication when we have these big catastrophic fires that this balance might be off. And so how can we help talk about and think about how can we put those forests on a better path using the tools, the research, the technology we have to help them have more of a balance and more resiliency. And forests are dynamic. Just about the time you have a plan, they probably change on you. But in Oregon, we need to actually plan for that. And we need to plan and accelerate the pace of what we do to help make these forests more resilient. And Dr. Bailey will talk more about that. But we know we can respond to that, and forests can be a big win for Oregon and for what we do. And we can have a big win where the goal is sustainability. And again, where we have those environmental, social, and economic benefits and balance across all of those. And we know that forestry and the people that work in forestry have the tools to do that. We just also need the support of the public and others in order to make that happen. And so we know it's a big win in Oregon. Governor Kotek and others have executive orders. We know that housing is a crisis in Oregon. We have local supply, local wood to help meet many of those needs. We have innovative people who are building and doing things. And so this is something we can lean into in Oregon. We also know that our Oregon's forests are great at capturing carbon. So they're one of our best renewable resources for capturing carbon from the atmosphere and then storing that carbon in the wood that we use. So where does that wood come from? So we talk about we have wood there to use. Well, right now, setting that baseline for you, If you take a look at this, sorry, it's a lot of numbers, but basically, if you remember, the large private was our second largest landowner, about 35%. Well, they're providing over 60% of the wood that we're using. And so our federal lands, our largest landowner, are providing more closer to 13% of the wood that we're using. So Dr. Bailey's going to talk more about how that has been an impact and how we might look at that differently in the future. So Oregon's forest sector, this is where I love to brag on all those that are in the sector. Even with all of the issues and all of the controversy, this is a sector that accomplishes many great things for the state. We are the #1 producers of softwood lumber and plywood production in the U.S., and our lumber goes all over the markets in both the North America and throughout the world. And we're really a leader in mass timber. We have the Wood Tall Design Institute. It's a lot of innovation at Oregon State and U of O and even a mass timber coalition. And you already heard about them this morning, but I also want to brag on these guys again at the Ferris Engineered Wood, where that just amazing, bringing together innovation and technology and utilizing the wood that's available and bringing that together to even become the coolest, some of the coolest products in Oregon. So kudos again to them. And really, there's so much opportunity in the future. And so right now, that baseline for Oregon's forest sector, we have over 61,000 workers, and we have an above average wage for those workers. And it's really important in all of our economies, but especially in our rural economies. In many of our rural counties, we see well over 10 to 15% of that county, the economic employment is from the forestry. And we currently have about 167 facilities. Everyone talks about how, they've shut down, they've done things, but those facilities that are left are really high tech. They really utilize all the products, and they really help provide the needs that our society is asking for. So they really are a big economic contributor as a sector, and I could talk a lot of numbers, but we put a book in front of you, the Oregon Forest Facts Book, so you can see all the numbers, you can take it home with you and dive into it more if you're one of those that love numbers. What I also want is to not only focus on the numbers of the forest sector, and we know we can be economic contributors in the state, we know we could provide and be a lot of the solutions for what the state is facing. We also have a lot of protections in place. So those environmental protections we talk about that are an important part of this balance. And one big reason that we have that is the Oregon Forest Practices Act, which is started back in 1971. And Oregon was the first to have it, and we continue to update it. We just went recently through a big event called the Private Forest Accord, where environmental and timber companies came together, and there's over 110 new rules that got established. And so this is an ever-evolving set of rules, but also really important for our protections, but also can sometimes be a lot for especially our small woodland owners to take on and digest it all. And so that's a big part what OFRI does, but there are a lot of protections already in place. And so with that, I'll just highlight a few of those protections and things to think about as we lean into forestry in Oregon. We have a longstanding tradition of reforestation, and so we actually have laws about it, but it is known that for every tree cut, we plant 3 more back. So reforestation is a really important part of our future and those next generations. We also have a lot of water protections as part of those rules, but just generally leaving buffers and a lot of protections around our waterways. And then a lot of protections around wildlife habitat and providing that wildlife habitat. And what we would say is our protections are there, but we also have a lot of other threats that are coming that are actually some of the bigger threats to our forests. And that's where I'm happy to pass over to Dr. Bailey to dive into some more of those threats and what are maybe some options to do from here. So thank you very much for the conversation that we're going to have today. Thanks for thinking about forestry in Oregon, and I'd encourage you to jump into more of these different topics. We have a lot of information on those. We have a display too, and if you have any other questions, not fire related, we can have that conversation another time. But thanks again for having us today.
I'm going to stick it back in there. Ha! Get to straighten that up a little bit. Oh, what an honor to come in and speak with you all. And the great news is that we have legislators who actually really know what's going on. Representative Diehl gave a lot of the talk that I would give. And while this slide is coming up and you're looking at it, I'll go ahead and acknowledge that I made a mistake letting Julie lead off and talk about all the good stuff, and then I can be Dr. Doom here for what's going on. But here's a presentation in looking at our fire history. It's the first context for this situation that we're in. I put the firefighter there. That's me in 1983. First becoming a firefighter and going out and suppressing wildfire and something we really thought we could do. So, I'm here first to confess. My name is John. I suppressed wildfire for a long time. And that ended up being a part of a much bigger promise that the Forest Service and other agencies were making at the time, that we could actually manage wildfire by just suppressing it all the time. And the context for that, so we have this increase that we've really, that's what gets me invited to these kinds of presentations, is that it's going up on average about 100,000 acres a year. We have these disasters like the Beachy Creek and Lion's Head fire and those kinds of things. And that's a notable increase in 3 of the last 4 years. So we don't have the statistics for this one yet. Have been new records, and that's happening all the time. But it's also within the context of a major decline. That is the defining colonization period in the western U.S. and the elimination of fire as a natural force. Of course, all those fires and estimated 50 million acres and all was a different style of fire than we got in Santiam Canyon. So this isn't about acreage as much as this context for what was really going on. 1910 is always mentioned as a big year. So our best estimates is about 30,000 acres, 10 million acres right up in the Big Burn area that defined the Forest Service, and this culture of fire suppression and all was actually not even that big of a year. So we'll note that in there. But we can go back many hundreds of years with fire scars and look at and verify this tremendous amount of fire that was out there. So it's not going to be the amount and acreage of fire as much as how fire is going to happen and what's going to be the impact on us. So this increase over the span of my career, yes, there's a climate signal in there. Here in the Pacific Northwest, our fire seasons are about a month longer than when I started that, when I was fighting fire. In some parts of the Northwest, maybe 2 months longer. So that is, the fuels are drier, but there's more fuels out there than we've ever had. So we have acres with more fuels than they've had since the last glaciation. We've created structural conditions and forest types that have never existed. And more scary than that amount of fuel out there is how connected those are, acre to acre to acre to acre to acre, coming down to Detroit, coming down to Gates and Mill City. There is a record amount of fuel out there, and it's more connected than it's ever been in a climate that is even drier. And the third part of it is humans. There are more humans out there. And that's both as a source of ignitions and to be impacted by these fires. So those are 3 trends that have led to this relative modest increase in the amount of fire we've had, but a huge increase in expenditures and cost associated with it, including cost of lives, the general public and our firefighters, both. So that's what we have to turn the corner on. Climate change, not a lot we can do about that in the near term. Humans, we don't talk a whole lot about that, but certainly we can harden our infrastructures better and do a better job with that. The big one that we can manage, unlike tornadoes and hurricanes and all that kind of stuff, with wildfire, the big one we can manage is fuels. We can just be better land managers because the fire is going to happen. And I always tell groups that, you can close your eyes, picture your favorite piece of forest where you go to hunt or fish or recreate or walk or look at when you drive down the road. Picture it. It's going to burn. It is going to burn. And how it burns is the choice that we're facing now. So let's take a look at it. So this is a figure that I'm popping into an upcoming book, Walk with Wildland Fire. I've got to plug that while I'm here. This is a commerce meeting, after all. That kind of looks at the carbon allocation of a standard archetypal forested situation, because we want to talk about how timber supply, biomass, carbon, however we view it, how it moves forward following fire. And about half it is above ground, half is below ground. There's a little bit of dead stuff right on the surface. There's a little bit of standing dead material, a lot of green living carbon, a lot of carbon stored in the soils. A little bit of it is dead down there as well. So what happens when it burns at low severity versus high severity is not a lot of immediate change. I don't know how well you can see the blue. Got a little, now I'm not going to be able to point, but that bottom high severity, there's a little blue part of of that figure. That's atmospheric carbon. That's carbon that's released back to the atmosphere immediately. So even in large scale stand replacing fire, less than 10% of the carbon is removed and put into the atmosphere right away. Most of it is left as standing dead material. And over time, more of that under high severity is released, whereas low severity fire tends to continue sequestering carbon. And out decades, we've gone, that more is even still being released from the standing dead material, whereas low severity, more sustainably managed forest continues to accumulate carbon. And so some number of decades out, we have twice as much carbon following low severity fire as we do high severity. So when we come back to the choice of not how many acres burn, but how is it going to burn, and what do we want moving forward? And so that brings us to fuels treatment, and the last thing that I want to share with you before we go to questions, and that is, are treatments effective? The answer is yes, every time. So starting at the smallest scale, removing fuels from a pile that is burning changes the energy that is released from that. Put a different amount of fuel in your wood stoves, you get a different amount of heat produced. But the effectiveness of that out on a hillside really varies. Under those most extreme conditions at the top there, the amount of fuels treatment done isn't likely to make a difference. And down at the lowest part of that figure, under very modest conditions, whether or not you do fuels treatments is not also isn't particularly important. But there is a huge middle ground. Most of the fire season, most of the annual fire season, most of the conditions under which fire burns, there is a huge range there where treatment makes a tremendous amount of difference. And there's a spatial component as well. I borrow from a Washington DNR publication that's available as well for how to spatially place those treatments in a logical way around our communities, around our infrastructure, how it ties into everything that we do out there in terms of even road maintenance and power line maintenance and grids and just managing those fuels. So we've got to we have a backlog of initial fuels treatment that we must do, and that's part of it moving forward, and then maintaining that through time. But that maintenance through time is pretty easy. There's a little prescribed burner there that I even circled, and that's easy kind of forest management to do once we've established a more resistant and resilient landscape. So with that, I'll hand it back.
Well, Julie and John, thanks so much for sharing your insight. I'd like to close with this thought. Our governor has set out a goal to build 36,000 new homes annually in the state. And this is a laudable goal. It reflects a real need in the state for affordable working-class homes. The 2020 Labor Day fires made a huge dent in our timber capacity, though. It reduced future harvests by about 115 to 265 million board feet per year over the next 40 years. A little math I worked last night shows that's about 9,000 to 21,000 homes per year that we've lost in timber. The good news is that we have some of the most productive forests in the world. And with proper stewardship, we can produce as much wood as we need to meet the governor's goals. Let's build Oregon homes with Oregon timber. How's that sound? The Tillamook forest alone grows the equivalent of a home every 2 minutes. One home grown in the Tillamook forest every 2 minutes. Not only do we have some of the most productive forest lands in the world, we have some of the most innovative wood products companies in the world. And I didn't have anything to do with this coolest thing in Oregon, but they are in my district, so I think I give bragging rights, right? Do I get bragging rights since they are in my district for forests? But thank you guys for your commitment to the community and to Oregon. So I'm optimistic about Oregon's future and Oregon's forests. And I love this state. We're worth fighting for. And together, I think we can chart a path to healthy forests in Oregon. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to questions.
So we have a few of our ambassadors out there with microphones. Just raise your hand if you have a question. One up here.
So when it comes to the land being owned by the state versus the federal government, and then what all of you guys know how to manage and maybe have better ideas than other people, how does it work when you're conflicting with the federal versus the state, and how do you, is there middle ground? Like, can you explain that a little bit?
Okay. Thanks for the question. So the federal is managed by federal government and are set by federal policies. And then the state forests are overseen by the Oregon Department of Forestry and the Oregon Board of Forestry. And so it is completely separate management. We do in Oregon have put forth some legislation called the Good Neighbor Authority, where we have started to see more connection with our state helping manage the federal forest. And that's really, again, to try and help accelerate bringing down those fuel loads that Dr. Bailey talked about and getting wood that can be used in our communities. But those policies are certainly enrolled in a lot of the government and policies versus always looking at the science, the research, and maybe what's best for the ground. And so there's a lot of controversy around a lot of times how those policies roll out.
Yeah, I'd add that, the Good Neighbor Authority, that's something that we want to expand, definitely. And I'd add that there's a difference that was really clear this year in how the state handles fires versus how the feds handle fires. And we had, just south of us, we had a fire, the Wiley Creek fire, and the other one up the McKenzie, I'm forgetting the name of it right now, but these two fires started about the same time. They were in the same kind of terrain, so they were seeing the same climate. One was aggressively fought by the state, and I think it went to about 400 acres, 500 acres. The other one, the feds have more of a let it burn approach, and it burned over 20,000 acres, I believe. So there is a distinct difference in the way we manage fires between the state and the feds. I do want to thank the state for being really, I do see a marked difference in how we're approaching fires and being more aggressive in suppressing the fires.
Thank you all. Craig Pope, Polk County Commissioner. I'm going to call out my comrade, Kevin Cameron. He and I both sit on the ONC Association board, which is the Oregon and California Railroad Association, representing 2.2 million acres of timberland that was, in a congressional act, required that the BLM manage those forest lands for the benefit of counties. One of the things that didn't get discussed here yet today, but it's important to note, is there's revenues that are absolutely critical from the appropriate management of all of these timberlands, both federal and state. We've been in a battle with the state of Oregon over 650,000 acres of trust lands that were promised to be managed by the state for the benefits of counties, school districts, et cetera. That's failing. And additionally, I want to point out, while you're talking about the disastrous outcomes of these fires, go look at where those fires have been. And on all the federal lands, you'll still see the fire scar. You'll still see those standing, dead, burned trees. You don't see that on the private lands because they get out there and clean it up quite quickly and try to derive what revenue they can from that damaged material. So we have some really serious policy challenges, both in the state and in the federal government. And then finally, I want to push back, sadly, on the stewardship planning. Remember that on all these forest lands that we're supposed to have a partnership with and derive a revenue that helps offset your property taxes in this state, stewardship planning does not provide any revenue. In fact, stewardship planning requires your state and federal treasury to supplement those land managers so that they can cut trees that these folks cannot use. They're too small for production. So stewardship has the right place and the right opportunity in the right places, but it is not the panacea. And finally, I'll end with, we like to use the term sustained yield management in all the practices that we promote. There's a way to have all of these benefits and still have safe forest lands. Dr. Bailey, I'd love to hear your perspective on sustained yield management.
It's good. You know, the problem is always the rubber hitting the road. The history in forestry of sustained yield management, of course, is focused on timber, and that has broadened out, you know, appropriately over time. But you know, maybe the analogy here is the pendulum has swung too far with environmental movement and you know the idea of preservation. And those kinds of things, and that's what's hindering BLM management on ONC lands, state management on ONC lands, federal land management on the National Forest Estate. And it's not for lack of knowledge or lack of intent by the foresters, many of whom I've trained, and that kind of thing. It really is kind of the policy environment that we're in, the swing of that pendulum towards preservation. And I can tell you today that you know the last few decades have shown that you know, the preservation model is a failure. You know, any time we draw a line around a piece of ground and think that protects it in any way, whether it's wildlife habitat or even the new riparian reserves and all that kind of stuff, we have to remember that yes, we can preserve, reserve, protect in the smallest spatial and temporal scales. But what the last few decades have taught us is that is not going to be sustained over the long term. So sustainable forest management is within the context of all these disturbances. And if we want old growth in the future, we've got to grow old growth somewhere because the old growth that we have now is going to burn. If we want, you know, good, strong riparian areas, we need to make them more resistant and resilient. We can't just protect them on a map. They're going to burn, and sometimes they burn hotter than the upland slopes. So we as a society need to acknowledge that you know preservation works only on the smallest spatial and temporal scales, and we need to make those. Those policy changes because the state and Fed policy is set by the people. And yes, it's small scale rules and regs and the new 100 and some that we have, but you know, there's a bigger level to this where we just need to be on the same mission to save the damn forest because it's going to burn.
We have time for one more from Mr. Withnell.
I think your choice of words of mortality and harvest could be chosen a little bit differently. I think some of us who remember the Oregon Forest Products Act in 1971 remember 1980 when absolutely the employment of the forest industry just absolutely dropped like a rock. And I think that's really significant to remember because what it did is it developed the whole state of Oregon economic level of Portland being equal to Medford, being equal to these other places, we made Portland not the only one that was economical. I mean, I can remember back in the 60s making more money setting chokers than making with a bachelor's degree 3 years with U.S. Bank. And what happened there is all that economy went absolutely zero. You could be a logger, or you could work in the forest industry and make as much as any white collar person. It's saying that analogy. So I think we need to go back, and then when you're talking about mortality, meaning the forest that's going rotten, and then what you're harvesting, how can you have rotten timber and lower harvest? That's not too illogical.
Any comment there, or other than you agree? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you were talking about stewardship. What I mean by stewardship is active management of our forests. We've turned our forests into a liability instead of an asset. We have. We can manage our forests. We can sustainably harvest. We can create jobs. We can build our economy. We can have healthy forests, forests that we want to recreate in, that we take our families to. All those things can happen. They're not mutually exclusive, and that's what I mean by stewardship. It is, and I get what you're talking about, good neighbor authority, but you know, I'm a state legislator, and there's some things that absolutely have to change at the federal level. We're trying to we have good companies trying to get contracts to harvest timber on BLM land, and they're blocked. BLM will approve it, and then they're blocked due to environmentalists in lawsuits, and some of them I've read are, you know, we lock those forests up because of a spotted owl, and we let it burn, and now we can't log those same forests because the fires have changed the environment for the spotted owl. That's the reasoning. So, yeah.
Well, I think we could have a 3 or 4 hour session on this, but
Yeah, let's do it.
it sounds like Dr. Bailey will be here for the next 3 or 4 hours if you'd like to stay. I know Mr. Heron, who runs the conference center, he'll make a room available for you. Well, thank you, Representative Ed Diehl, Julie, and Dr. Bailey for an informative presentation on our Oregon forests. I mean, they truly are an economic engine that we need to, partnership. This should be a partnership of all people of Oregon to make these an asset, not a liability. So, a few quick announcements, and I'll get you on and out of here for your day. A few tickets remaining tomorrow for Salem Chamber Business Women's event. It's occurring tomorrow over at Ross Fresh Market in West Salem at 11:45 a.m. Victoria Sexton will be doing effective branding and the value of your brand. So go on salemchamber.org or grab one of the team members here, and they can set you up with that for tomorrow. Thank you to Nathan Dean for a great national anthem. Please visit Nathan at the Old Zinn Wine Bar for some more vocals and some wine. I'm sure I'd see Miss Laura Dorn there if I had to guess. We want to wish to recognize our partners, Allied Video Productions, Capital Community Media, and Salem Convention Center, who showcase their talents to put these events on. To our Salem Chamber ambassadors, the fine folks in their Navy logo jackets that go to these events. They go to all the events. They do tremendous work for this organization. Patricia Callahan-Bowman and the team at Express Employment Professionals, we thank you for your support of the Salem Chamber. And then also the Forum Speaker Series luncheons will be presented all year by our team at Hagen Hamilton Solutions. Thank you to the John family, Chris McLaren, TJ Sullivan, Chad, and Matt. Thank you for what you do for the Chamber. And then next month, Monday, December 11th, 11:30 to 1, right back here at the Salem Convention Center. We'll have there on the screen Emerging Leader Expert Panel hosted by Ellen Yin, the owner of Cubicle of CEO Clubhouse. The panel will discuss how business professionals under 40 years of age may shine and thrive within Salem's business community, as well as share thoughts with employers on how to maximize the employment benefits of your emerging leaders workforce. As a reminder, we do start each forum luncheon at 11:30, so arrive, come, network. And to get those tickets, you can go to salemchamber.org And today we close today with our Flower Peace Center giveaway, courtesy of Ross Fresh Markets and Kimberly Allison of Grace House. There you go. These are yours. So with that, one last time, I want to thank our veterans, and go out and have a productive week, and we'll see you next month.